Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we have an awesome topic, a much-needed topic, how to avoid burnout as an entrepreneur. My guest and I, we already had like 3 other podcasts before we hit record. Unfortunately, you don't get to listen in on that, but we had a great conversation about all things health and maximizing your personal health, which is an important topic too. So unfortunately, you can't hear that episode, but this one, I encourage you to listen in on because this is also equally as important. AJ, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
So we had, as I teased, we had a great episode about health, and I'm sure the two things, burnout and health, overlap at some points.
They are.
Curious for you though, you don't do anything in terms of burnout necessarily. Maybe you do, but you probably had a part of your journey as an entrepreneur that found you being burnt out. And I'm curious what that was, at least, for the first time. What got you aware of this topic?
So I would say that luckily, I became aware of how to manage myself early. So I didn't experience major burnout. I did see it in other people, and that kind of scared me. And so I was like, okay, what do I have to do to avoid this problem? And so from, I don't know, 20, 25 years, 30 years or so, I've been very cognizant about like, okay, how do I manage my own energy? How do I manage my own mental state? And I've developed a few tricks here and there to kind of help me manage that situation. Because ultimately, if I'm not good, then my business is not good, and my family's probably not good because I'll impact my family, right? And those things, all those, and your health, we were talking about that, right? So all those things kind of are, one leads to the other, and they're intertwined. You cannot kind of separate them really as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. So I've developed some tactics. We can talk about those.
I would love to. And I want to point out a couple of things there because it's so easy to overlook them, where you said you saw other people go through it, more severe versions of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for myself, I definitely been there in the past, but I was not as smart as you to learn from others. That is such a skill to be able to look at someone else's life and say, I don't want that. I'm going to learn from it rather than just stopping it. I don't want that.
Right.
And then continuing.
Yeah. That is, I can't remember who or some, I got this advice from somebody, but I don't remember who it was, about, learning from others' mistakes, right? Like, and people are happy to share sometimes because they've been through hell. They don't want other people to go through hell. And so one of the things that I remember having to do is you have to kind of humble yourself and say, maybe I don't know what I don't know. And just watch and observe and ask questions. Like I'm always asking questions. If somebody gives me a little bit of time, I'll be like, well, how'd you do that? Well, how'd you do that? And a lot of entrepreneurs, when you build a little bit of a rapport, they're happy to share.
Mm-hmm.
They're happy to share. And one of them was this one thing, which I still stick to every day, which is you are where you are because you don't know what you don't know.
Amen to that.
Right. And so what does that mean? That means you're always having to learn to get to the kind of next level. Right. So what does that mean? And usually that means, finding somebody that's gone a little ahead of you so you can learn from them.
Yeah, I will say this, one of the reasons I love this platform, and I don't mean specifically this podcast, that's a little egotistical of me to say, but podcasts in general is People are coming on here like yourself to share their wisdom and their experience to help others avoid probably some pain and pitfalls along the way that you've experienced. And I know, at least for this show, I can speak to it. All of our guests, we've had over 320 guests at this point,
Wow.
are very, very approachable. If you reach out to them, their contact info is down below in the show notes. AJ's contact info is down below in the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening.
Right. Right.
He will probably answer an email or a message on LinkedIn if you genuinely ask for help. And I think that's so cool, because often we get so scared to reach out to people and be vulnerable. I shared something I was going through before we started recording, and we had a 30-minute conversation
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
health and our heart health. And
Right.
that's so cool to me. So I want to thank you and express genuine gratitude for you being here, but also willing to share, because I know there are probably a lot more people who aren't willing to share.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Some people are private. They're more private than others. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I want to dive into the tactics you mentioned. We got a little
Right.
off track there, but that's okay, because that's important. So what are these tactics that you've picked up on and now you use for yourself?
So one of the things, so there are really two key ones. One of them is journaling.
Hmm.
So why do I say that? So what happens, what I find that the downward spiral starts is when you have just too many things happening, too many things in your head, and you can't get them out, and then it just clogs everything, right? It clogs your thought process, it clogs your decision making, it clogs your time management. It's just like a mess. You become less effective. And one of the things that I've found that really helps me is just I started with just writing it out, just taking a piece of paper, and then just whenever I get into that state, I just and I have to do with pen. If I type it out, it's not the same. Like for me, it's I have to write it out. So I used to do that. I would just write it out, but then it was unstructured. It was just when this occurred. But then I found, again, through somebody mentioning it to me, and then me digging into it, is this whole art of journaling, right? Yeah, and one of the things that led me to it is you've heard of Marcus Aurelius, right?
Yes.
Right. So Marcus Aurelius's journals and so forth, like which he never meant to publish, and it's not supposed to be published, but we get to read it. That learning about that the emperor of the emperor there, the Roman emperor, journaled some 2000 something years ago in order to keep his mental state. I was like, if an emperor needs to do that, then a humble me probably needs to do that too. So what I started doing was I started journaling. And in the journaling, one book that also helped me a lot was Keith Cunningham's The Road Less Stupid. The Road Less Stupid. And in there, he talks about asking yourself the questions that somebody else would ask you if you were in a consultation, right? So for example, I have this predicament, and what should I do? But what are my options? And this is, you do this in the journal, right? What are my options? And you just write what comes to mind, right? Don't like refrain it. Don't try and make it pretty, whatever. Just write. The journal is only for you. Nobody else is going to look at it. It's private, right? So you just write what comes to you. And sometimes it may take several iterations of you asking this question. Or another one is, who can I get advice from? Or who could I ask? And you'll be surprised the next day after, your subconscious is probably working on this thing, right? And then it'll come to you, right? So that technique has helped me a tremendous amount, because what I find that where your mind really starts to go downhill is when you feel you have no options. You're in a predicament, right? I mean, it happens all the time, right? And if you feel you have no options, your mindset is not positive; it's negative. If you have options, you're like, well, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. You, even though you're still in the same quagmire, you're gonna like at least be positive about it rather than negative. And that's one of the steps to avoiding burnout, is a that, everybody says about this positive mindset. It's like woo woo, whatever. But really, it does make a difference when you have options. At least for me, it does, right? If I have like 2 or 3 options to choose from versus none, I mean, when it's none, and that's when I start asking myself questions. But when it's none, it's not positive. Like what the f, right? But as soon as I start, writing this stuff down, and maybe a day or two goes by, and I, start writing some options, I'm a lot better. And that positive state is, um, to me, helps me prevent the downward spiral.
Well, that makes sense. And I think, most people, most entrepreneurs at least would thrive within that structure. If you have trouble making decisions, then maybe just write until you get one option so you don't
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
decide and
yeah,
stretch
yeah,
yourself out even more.
yeah.
I'm curious though, because I've seen I've seen friends of mine. I don't know that I've ever struggled with this because I'm usually a pretty positive, optimistic person.
Hmm.
But having trouble getting in that state in the first place. So pre-journaling, like, is there anything you do to maybe disconnect from what's going on or get yourself in a state to even write things out? Or do you just write really mean, nasty things until the positive starts flowing? Like, what does that look like for you?
So I'm also generally positive,
Mhm.
but there are entries that would be, let's just say, not complimentary.
The outside world would judge you a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, and this is when, like you're asking yourself, what am I doing wrong, or what have I done wrong, or I made a bad decision. Because so here's the thing. The other thing is learning to forgive yourself. I forgot about
Mm.
that one, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we're going to make mistakes. We have embarked on a journey where we don't know what we don't know, and therefore we're going to make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, and you have to be able to forgive yourself, right? So okay, I screwed up. Okay, fine, I own it, right? What am I going to do about this? And this is the one thing I really implore a lot of people to: forgive yourself. Like, you make mistakes, you tried your best. Even if you didn't try your best, even if it's a haphazard effort thing that you did, you learn from that. Forgive yourself, so next time you try a little harder, right? And
Mm.
if it's like 10% better the next time, it's 10% better. It's better, right? So you'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
So that's I forgot about that one. Forgive yourself.
No, that's so key. And I mean, hopefully we make mistakes. That's the whole point, right? Is
Yeah,
that's
right.
how you learn at least quicker. And we have two people on our team right now that are in analysis paralysis, and they're so
Mm,
fearful of making mistakes for no reason. It's just something new and different that they've never done before, so they don't know if they will excel.
right.
I'll tell you what. After this, I'm going to go give them the exercise to journal because
Yes.
I think getting it out of their head, like just asking the what ifs, right? Like
Yeah.
what if it goes well? What if it goes poorly? Then
Right.
what? I
Yeah.
think that's a
Yeah.
really
And
cool tactic.
what are different options?
Right.
Right. What
Absolutely.
are
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So journaling, I think that's super cool. That's a great tip, and I like the distinction of paper and pencil versus technology. I'm a huge
Yeah.
technology fan, I must admit, but
Yeah.
this episode is now sponsored by paper and pencil, old fashioned technology. What else do we have? What else can we do? What are some other tactics you've developed?
So the other one is, forcing yourself in one way or another to take a break periodically,
Oh, that's big.
right? And so, what are the things that I do for that? One of them is when the weather is great, like right now it's bloody cold, so I'm not doing this now, but going for walks, right? So there are two modes that I do. One is sometimes I go for a walk and I'm taking calls and I'm dealing with issues while I'm walking, right? So at least I'm moving around or what have you. And the other one is I take nothing, right? And I go for a walk. And I'm gone for half an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is. But just that break in the pattern, in the, grind, so to speak, clears my head, allows me to think better, allows me to make better decisions, and I feel better. And I've moved rather than, being stationary in front of a computer or whatever. So that's one. And the other one is, um, once a quarter, uh, like take 2-3 days off, right? Like where maybe you're going for a drive with family or something to some place, and then once a year at least, I do take a family vacation, right? So the vacation thing is interesting. As an entrepreneur, I find that if my systems are not proper, then it's holding me back from vacations, right? So the litmus test is, well, I need to go on a vacation. I know, because I got to take care of myself. If I don't take care of myself, my business will go to crap, and so will my family life, and so will my health, right? So that's the cost. And so okay, I got to go on vacation, but you feel you can't go on vacation because things are going to fall apart. Well, that means you got to fix some stuff in the business so that you can actually go for a week at least, right? Like in one of the books I'm reading, I forget the title right now. It's like, the test is really taking a month off. Like you build your business to a point where you can take 4 weeks off and not worry about anything, right? So I've gotten to the 3 weeks. It probably go longer, but that's what I'm comfortable with. And most of our trips are 2 weeks and a bit or whatever, right? But that is one of the litmus tests for you to be able to say, okay, I still have some work to do in my business or on the business, such that I can take these 1 week, 2 weeks off, and that's a litmus test.
Absolutely. It's a great indicator too of where your business is. And if you look at, well, let me ask you, is the book Clockwork by any chance by Mike Michalowicz?
It might be. It
I'm a
might be.
huge
So I'm
I'm a
reading a
huge
few. I'm
fan.
reading like 4 books right now, and two of them are there's the fix this next, I think.
Yeah, also by him.
Yeah, and then the Clockwork. Yeah, it's got to be Clockwork.
Probably. I also have, if you haven't read it, right there, you can't really see it, but it's Pumpkin Plan, also by Mike Michalowicz. I'm
Okay.
a
Yes.
huge fan of all of his work, so shout out to you, Mike.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
Yes.
really, really
Shout
good
out.
book. I read that book for the first time. It was when it came out. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago at this point in my first business, and I
Mhm.
was like, it changed my perspective. I was like, whoa, I probably can't take 2 hours off of this business without it imploding.
Right.
And I got it to the point where I could take a 4 week vacation.
Right.
Changed my life, changed my outlook of business from then on. I've never looked back.
Right.
Highly
Right.
recommend
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. 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 Luckily, I had some coaching and stuff like that in the past where we put systems in place.
Mhm.
But I so far I've not gotten too far in the book. I just found out about the book actually last week. No, the week
Wow.
before. Week before. And so I got it and I started reading it. And
Yeah,
then there's
that's
these
super
other
cool.
books. So I'm like, I gotta, you can see from all the books. I
Yeah,
do
no,
like to read.
I see you're an avid reader, but listen, that's where knowledge and wisdom comes from. So I advise anybody to do that. The other thing you said that I just want to pick up on is a good friend of mine. His name is Greg Kimball. I'll have to have him on the show. I don't know why we haven't had him on the show yet. He's developed what he named the infinity model. And you've
Okay.
mentioned it twice now, where it's basically there's 4 pillars: there's personal, business, vitality, and community, and
Mhm.
they all flow into each other. So if your
Mhm.
business is underperforming, you hide in your personal life. If you're successful in business, you'll see results in your vitality or your health. And
Mhm.
it's really, really interesting because you've picked up on this a few times, to where, if your health suffers, your business suffers. Well, yeah,
Right.
that's exactly what he says, and he's defined this model to where you can always identify if you're thriving somewhere, it means you're probably lacking somewhere else, unless there's checks and balances in place.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that is, I just find it interesting that you picked up on that and you highlighted it multiple times, because I
Yeah.
think as entrepreneurs we overlook that. It's like, no, just business all the time,
Right.
and we just get distracted with the other things that really do matter.
Yeah. And they make a difference. And when I was younger, I didn't quite appreciate that. Right.
Mm,
So, um, uh, they are interconnected, and one does impact the other. You may not realize it, but it does. And if
absolutely.
you're prior to getting married or prior to having kids, it's different. You're in a slightly different life cycle or stage in your life. So that there is a difference there. But as you as the audience of this particular show, typically you'll have family and those kinds of things.
Yeah, you probably hear mine in the background every now and then. They scream, they're downstairs, and they're zoo animals. But there's nothing we can do about that. They're
Right.
the absolute joy of my life. I wouldn't trade it
Right.
for anything.
Right.
But AJ, this has been phenomenal. We're just scratching the surface, with I'm sure all of the things that you've picked up on and the tactics you have in place. Tell me a little bit about your company and your app, because I think it's really cool, especially for this audience. And I'll put the website on the screen.
So we make a product called Daylight, and what it is an application that I originally built for myself, but really, it's I believe in small business. I believe in entrepreneurs. I believe in people, taking control of their own lives, so to speak. And so I built this app to help small businesses grow, and that was kind of like my parameter, right? I helped it from kind of for myself first, but then really that's what it is. And that's because I believe that small business is the future, right? Like, meaning that any big business today started as a small business. So if I can help those wheels, then I've done some good in this world, right? So that's the premise of the application. So it's a productivity application, but if I'm going to help you grow your business, if I'm going to come through on my promise there, then one thing I realize is that you have to have customer relationships, right? And that's you can't build a business without those, right? Whether you're no matter what kind of business, really, but majority small businesses, you're offering a service or what have you, no customer relations or no managing of the customer relations properly, you're not going to go too far for too long. So what happens is that we are a productivity app. We have the CRM thing. We're strong on the CRM side because of that necessity of building your business. And we also have sales pipelines and project pipelines as well in there.
That's awesome. I'm a nerd for all that stuff, so I'm definitely going to go check it out. The website's on the screen. It's also down below in the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening, daylight.app. AJ, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. That was fun.
This was awesome. Wherever you're watching or listening, you have all the info. Contact AJ down below. I already told you, please reach out. Our guests are amazing and they want to help. We'll see you on the next episode.
So is our host, by the way.
Oh, thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. And so, of course, our listeners, thank you. Shout out. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.